Watching the Into the Rock show is helpful in the consistency and the messaging. I feel like that, first of all, it's on point. It comes from a place that actually understands the nature of the problem. And I think that's where, at least people like myself, have to know that somebody has been there. In particular, I will clam up. If I don't think that you've already been down this road, then I'm not gonna really receive anything that you're saying, because I don't think that it comes from a place of understanding. But when there's depth and breadth to the knowledge base, which Michael clearly has in spades, then, you know, you can't, well, I think I heard it somewhere, you can't fake the funk on a nasty dunk, you know what I'm saying? That's the way I see it. You have to know what you're talking about, and I know that he knows what he's talking about, so it resonates with me.
Christopher, welcome to the show, man. It's good to see you, bro. So glad to have you here. We've been friends a long time, and we tried this a long time ago on Into the Rock when you were on the road. Yeah. And we had a horrible connection.
Well, you know, I remember I was in Des Moines, Iowa, and I had an event that was going on in Iowa City. So I drove back from Iowa City to Des Moines to try to catch that connection with you, and we were able to get it done, but it was a bumpy one.
Yeah, it was a encrypted Zoom is what it was. But welcome to M2 Studios, dude. Isn't this awesome?
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of an upgrade around here.
Well, we're blessed and fortunate, and we're so glad to have you on the show where we talk about, you know, inspirational stories for inspirational people like yourself, and you're on blast right now. Singer, songwriter, country singer. You live here locally in the Dallas area, in Prosper, Texas, and in Nashville. And what's new? What's going on in Christopher Wright's life today?
Man, we have a home up there in Prosper, and we have an apartment in Nashville. We Airbnb it out whenever I'm not there to make that rent over there, because we're not independently wealthy, but we do have a lot of really cool stuff going on, because we got an album coming out on February the 28th.
What is that?
Well, it's called The Other Side. Aptly named because basically all of the things that got me to the point in my life where I had an inflection point where I had some really tough decisions to make and some life changes to make, and this is what it looks like on the other side. So I named the album The Other Side. Our mutual friend Ray Wiley Hubbard helped to kind of put this train on the tracks, so to speak. We'll get to that. But,
well, let's get into it now. That's a huge name and a legend, and a very close friend of mine and yours. And what role does he play in that? What does he do?
Well, man, you know, when you actually, we have a call that we hop on, and I had a business question outside of the scope of any sort of recovery thing. I had a music question, and I wanted to run it by Ray. So a couple of years ago, it was in March, I remember stepping off the call, and I asked Ray about a song that I wanted to record, and he was like, "Oh, well, call me and we'll see what we're gonna do." So I called him. You know, he ultimately just said, "Well, why don't you just send those songs over here and we'll see what we're gonna do with them." I sent those like in March, and then, you know, it's like, you know, April goes by and half of May goes by. I remember it was like right around May 17th or so, because I just gotten back from the gym. And I got to turn the shower on. I was fixing the shower, and my phone rings, and it's Ray Wiley Hubbard on the phone. So, I mean,
can't miss that.
I got to take the call. So I just turned the shower off, and I had to say I was naked. I take the call. I was like, "Hey, Ray, what's going on?" He's, "Well, I need you to be in Dripping Springs, Texas, because my son and Tobindale and you know, are going to be recording at the Zone Studios down there in Dripping." So he had already like saw some promise in it and wanted to put it on the track. So Lucas and you know, Pat Mansky and Jonathan Tyler, and golly, we got John Michael, who plays bass for Jack Ingram, and you know, Cody Braun is on this thing, Matt Hubbard. God, there's so many amazing people. So anyways, this album is coming out on the 28th, and we've got a single that's already climbing the charts on AMA. The album's already like at 102 on the AMA charts this week, and hadn't even released yet.
That's great.
So yeah, really neat stuff.
What and the great things that are happening, and you're married, and
yes,
tell us about your lovely wife.
Well, dude, I had I'd been married prior, and then I was single for 12 years because I was never going to do that again. I'd come to right when I made up my mind and I knew that it was set. I was going to work and I was going to do music for a living, and I didn't have any distractions in my life at all. This was about 5 years ago in April, and I was comfortable in myself for the first time in a long, long time, and I guess God just kind of winked at me and thought, okay, that's your plan, huh? Well, here, and introduced me to this angel, Angela, that is you've met, and she's
absolutely
just been the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me.
Well, so music is it's your life. I mean, that's what you do. That is your full-time job. And has it been a part of your life your whole life? Have you always been a music junkie?
You know, I started writing songs when I was a kid, but my family doesn't have, we don't have like the pedigree of having music in our family. Like my dad, ultimately, when I was in college, I went to school. Corey Morrow is one of my fraternity brothers. He's a Texas country legend around here too. But we didn't have like artists or musicians in our family that use art to make money or to pay bills. So that wasn't ever really even in my purview, really. So when I was in college, my dad was like, you're never going to make any money with that guitar. You need to get a real job.
Right.
So I did. I chased the corporate world all the while. I never stopped writing and I never stopped playing my guitar. But, I had a family, and I had a family early and fast. I got into this all fire hurry to get grown up. By the time I was 25, I had 2 kids and dog and a picket fence kind of thing, and it was just babies raising babies.
Right.
Common story with this generation.
Right.
But anyways, like nothing ever fit. It never felt like I was selling something for somebody else, and I made a lot of calls and I made a lot of deals and I made a lot of money, but I never felt like I was full. I never felt full.
I can relate to that. And the road wasn't easy getting to where you're at today. And let's kind of dive into that. What was your life like? I mean, kind of your not the whole story of but what it was like, but what happened, and like obviously what it's like today. And you're a man in long-term recovery now.
Yes. Yeah.
And been sober for how long?
It'll be 9 years in September, man.
That's
about
correct.
The grace of God. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when did you realize that you had a problem with this and your life was unmanageable?
Well, I think that the consequences, to answer your question, now that I look back through the eyes with recovery in my, like I've got a head full of recovery, as we'd say, but I had, with that being said, I think that it was probably somewhere around when consequences started making it not fun anymore. It was like, it became kind of embarrassing, it became where it wasn't like, I didn't really experience like the first time that I really got in trouble with the law until 2013. But then I kept having trouble with the law. I kept thinking, it's like the age-old story of they're picking on me, like even though I'm losing jobs, I'm losing relationships, now the cops are picking on me. It's like, wait a minute, I actually wrote a song called I've Been to Hell and You Can Have It. I wrote that song because my friend Scott he's also in recovery, and he had called up and he had said, hey man, my girlfriend won't stop cheating on me. I swear the cops are picking on me, and this job is terrible. And I was like, dude, did you ever stop to think that maybe you're the common denominator in all that stuff, And when I hung up I told him, I said, man, I've already been to hell. You can have it.
Right.
And I hung up the phone. I was like, oh.
That's the song. That's the song.
So that song was the song that went top 50 in the Texas country charts. And ended up making me decide to do this thing full time, because I actually had just a sliver of success with telling the truth about my story. And I was like, wait a minute. And at the time I was reading a book called The Obstacle is the Way.
Yeah. You sent that to me. I can't wait to read that.
And it was like all that stuff was coming together at the same time. I remember I did my first show, and I think I got like $1,200 for doing the show that we pulled off, or private show. And I remember closing the tailgate of my truck and going, wait a minute, I can do this for the rest of my life. I could make a living doing this. I just got to take the energy that I was putting into this and put it into this. Everything I've got and put it into this. And that was in 2019. I made that decision, and I haven't looked back.
That's great. When I say this, your whole life, like you relate to this, you were chasing invisible things you're chasing visible things to try to fix that invisible problem.
For sure.
Can you relate to that?
100%.
And when did you know that you had a problem with this? And walk us through those dark times.
I think that whenever, I honestly think that when I got a divorce from my wife, there were things that were going on that were, I mean, I wasn't even coming close to acting like myself. I felt like I was trying to lash out. I felt like I was trying to kind of burn the whole thing down. I was self-destructing, and I knew that I had a problem. I knew that there was a situation where I had to wrap my head around it. And I really started going towards finding sobriety in around 2014, but dude, it didn't land until 2016 when I had in August of 2016, I started getting really yellow, and I thought, oh, I'll just go outside and get some sun, you know, like we do with the babies, right? Well, it had already gotten to the point to where I was really sick, but I didn't have that tipping point. But I had a bag of shingles, man, and I threw them into the back of my truck one day, and I felt like I had a hernia in my stomach. I go into the hospital and I said, hey, I got this pain, and it was just wrenching me. And they looked in my eyes and they were like, no, you have to check in because you're in bad trouble.
I mean, what was the problem? I mean, what was a medical problem?
8 hours later, I had acute liver failure. My liver completely failed, my pancreas shut down, and my spleen ruptured.
As a result of alcohol
and drugs.
Wow.
And so they put a trach down my throat, and they took all the old blood out and put new blood back in. So put me on dialysis. I was on machines to have me basically be medically alive for 8 days. My parents called Christ Church and had Jeff Ron come to deliver my last rites on September the 9th, 2016.
And then what happened?
I didn't die.
Yeah. And then what happened?
They sent me to stepping stones. The community in Allen actually put a golf tournament on at Twin Creeks Golf Course. Wow. And Casey Moran was a part of that too.
Yeah.
And my coaches and all the people that had watched me grow up in Allen and in Lubbock when I went to school at Tech. And so I had people that drove in, and they raised about $12,000 to send me to Stepping Stones, which is basically right next to the Mayo Clinic. And they were going to try to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I got out of the hospital. I got cleared to go down there. And so I had gone through all of this trauma and all this stuff. And I had 2 days where I was going to stay at my parents between then and then going to Florida. And they were going to put me on a plane. I remember it was on a Thursday. I was going to be on a plane. So the Southwest, I had $100 gift certificate to a Visa card for the $100. I had no money to my name other than that. And at that Chili's there at the bar, Chili's 2, I had 3 more double vodka and sodas. Wow. After all that detox and all that stuff, I did it again one more time.
So for the viewer and listener who is watching this and listening to this, I can relate. I get it. But for people like going, are you kidding me?
I had to go through a detox all over again in Florida.
Yeah.
And that was the last time I ever had a drink.
Wow. Wow. And how are you staying sober today?
By the grace of God.
Yeah.
And men like yourself, and community and connection with people that are in the spirit and not trying to blow their own world up. And actually, to tell you the truth, I actually right now when I look in the mirror, I actually like what I'm looking at.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I figured out a way to love myself, you know what I mean? I was beating myself up with all the stuff that I was hearing about who I was and what I wasn't. And then I started hearing about what he thought that I was and what I can be. And it changed learning 12 steps really helped me to put it in perspective.
What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, it's just going through the steps in order, you know?
Not alone.
And not alone.
Yeah.
No, with a sponsor.
Yeah.
with a sponsor that was able to walk me through it and kind of guide me, like kind of guiding me through an amusement park.
Yeah.
And it was an eye-opening experience. And I wrote out all the things that I called it my MFer list.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Well, before that list, step 3, it says we made a decision to turn our will and life over to the care of God as Christopher understands him.
exactly.
Describe your God of your understanding.
I believe it has changed dramatically since I was spared, I feel like, or I was given, I think what it was I feel like that I didn't finish the job. And God told me that your job's not done here. You have work left to do. Now go do it the way that I want you to do it. So I feel like that I got that connection. I came so close to, when I was in that hospital, I remember wanting to die. I didn't want to be here anymore. And all of a sudden, everything got real quiet and it got real still. It was really painful, then it got real still, and then I got scared because I didn't want to die.
Right.
So I did want to do whatever it took I remember having that feeling. I had lost touch with it. So the God of my understanding now, as I was willing to turn the care of my life over, means that it's an entity that wants to have the best for me and the people that are around me. And I believe sent Jesus Christ as the roadmap to here's how we do it.
Right.
And because without an example, how do we pull it off? I think that's God's brilliant plan for the way that I see it, is that I've sent my son as a roadmap. Now you knuckleheads, see if you can get close to this. And if you do, you can walk maybe a little closer to me.
Well, that's well said. Well said. And as a result of all these 12 steps, having had a spiritual awakening, we carry the message, to others. Yeah. And that's what we do today. And that's what we're doing on this show today is providing that hope. Since being clean and sober, has it helped you with your writing?
Definitely, most definitely. I think that, I started with one of the things that I learned through prayer and meditation is that for meditation, I feel like is where I'm listening, and prayer is where I'm talking or I'm communicating. And I think that like in getting plugged in with meditation, I can kind of get plugged in with that the universal spirit that's trying to tell me what melodies are and things of that nature. I believe that there's a creative spirit in the air that we have to be able to connect to, and the only way that we can do it is to be completely open. And then I think that that's mind, body, and spirit. I think it's to be healthy in our body to be able to receive it. I think that it's to be healthy in our mind to be able to receive it. I think the third step prayer is like it's a mantra to me. I feel like I guide my thinking.
Right.
Like be in between me and my thoughts, because my thoughts have all the other stuff in the world mixed in.
Yeah.
So be between me and my thoughts, and then be in God guide my intuition, how I perceive it. Be in between me and that intuition. And then my decisions, like after I've gotten the thought and then I've had my intuition, giving that you're in between all those things, now be in between this choice that I'm fixing to make. And then I realized that a lot of the bad things that I did have been just as helpful to other people as the good things. So God, take all of me, the good and the bad, to do with me as you will.
What do you mean by that? That the bad things today are helpful for others?
Dude, I am a walking example of what not to do. So like those things, the things that I sing about or I write about, that, like that, those were not good things. But when I live the example of my footwork is attraction rather than promotion.
Yeah, I like that. What does that mean, real quick? Attraction rather than promotion. What does that mean?
I don't have to talk about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell anybody that I'm sober. I don't have to do, I would rather not say it, and I'd rather just watch my feet.
Right.
Watch what I'm doing. And I'm glad to talk to you if you want to talk about it.
Right.
And I'd love to help you if I can help you.
Right.
But for what it's worth is don't necessarily pay attention to what I'm saying. Watch what's happening.
Yeah, watch what I'm doing.
Watch and not even necessarily what I'm doing, Michael. I feel like what it is that watch what he's doing in me, because I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, well said.
I'm the whole thing. The message is get out of the way.
Right.
Get out of your way, Christopher. Get the F out of the way.
Right.
'Cause when you step in, things are wonky. So put me in between you and all that stuff.
I love that. I love that. And so, well, you know, when resentments arise in your life today, because I truly believe
You still have those things?
every once in a while, but and when I get them, you know, today I have tools. You know,
Yeah.
I have a resentment because I play a role in it. You know, that's why I have a resentment. But when those resentments arise in your life today, how do you manage that? What do you do?
Well, you got, you know, one of the things that we had I think inside that third step prayer somewhere that it talks about take away my selfishness, my dishonesty, my resentment, and my fear. Right. So I think that in that staying in prayer kind of thing for resentments, I first of all have to recognize that what is my role in it. And that's sometimes difficult for an egomaniac sometimes to kind of get a, you know, a level of I don't know, of humility and to say, okay, well, what did I do wrong here first? And then I can get closer to like, okay, I can understand where the resentment really lies.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We set the role. What about fears? You know, we get in fears and fear of financial insecurity, fear of our future, fear of our career,
All the time.
and how do you process that today?
I try to realize sometimes that it's my brain that's that's future tripping or something like that. If I'm sitting here putting a scenario together, like, okay, I'm going to do this and then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. I can, because of meditation, I feel like I can stop and go, okay, that's my head. That's my brain. That's not reality. So back away from that for a second. And I started doing this thing, the Calm app. I do a 10-minute meditation. I think this year has been the best. I've only not meditated 3 days so far this year.
Wow.
So like I get a little tracker, but I feel like I can get really good at stepping outside of those little head spins that I would typically get into, or I'd get lost in thought, because that meditation teaches me that I can kind of take a breath and realize that was my head just running amok.
Right.
Kind of like monkey brain or something.
Well, yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, settle down, back to reality.
You know, when you're touring and you travel a lot, I mean, you're on the road a lot and you got some really big events coming up, and we're gonna have all your, you know, links in the description where people can follow you and download your music but man, that's a lifestyle. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. I mean, and a lot of alcohol around how do you deal with that?
You know, I feel like sometimes that's the miracle of the whole thing. Dude, I really and truly don't have any desire whatsoever to go back to the way that I used to live, because I remember how bad that is. But I continue to go and check in with men like yourself and remember how it is. And I try to stay in service the best that I can, make myself available but when you hear or you see guys in a meeting or something step in and they look like you used to feel, you know, or like, damn, you know what? Thank you.
Right.
You know, and what can and there's something about picking people up, and, you know, there's something about also just seeing people before me pull it off.
Yeah.
AKA Ray Wiley Hubbard has been sober for almost 40 years, and he's been doing this at a high level. So first of all, I didn't know that I could do it sober. I didn't think I could because of the inhibition level, you know? I mean, it's a nerve-wracking thing to get up in front of a bunch of people and play the guitar. So I didn't think it was possible to do sober. But once I figured that out, and now I know that it can be done at a very high level. And then I started finding out that a lot of our heroes growing up were sober the whole time. I didn't know. Eric Clapton has been sober forever.
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Stevie Ray, all of the,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, Brian Head Welch from Corn,
Yes.
and I mean,
Yeah.
it's a cool movement.
It's a cool movement.
Yeah,
Like all the cool kids are doing it now. Yeah, that's cool.
it's a good following. You know, you touched on something that I want to talk about. You know, in today's world and today's culture, you know, it's easy to say God, okay, but to talk about Jesus. Not the world Jesus, not the culture Jesus. A lot of the churches, I don't want their Jesus either, but describe Jesus, Jesus Christ, and why is that so powerful to you?
Man, and kind of, first of all, I absolutely, I love the idea that it's a roadmap to something that I can aspire to live towards. But I do believe that because of the mystique of the man that was put here, I'm a big studier in Stoicism. I've got Marcus Aurelius tattooed on my arm because I believe that virtue and courage and, some of the things that were 3,000 years old that are paralleled with the Bible and with the 12 steps. I see that all these things have things in common. And I feel like that, to me, that the benevolent character in the whole thing is Jesus Christ, the Son of God, that I've been taught about my whole life. I was baptized to believe it. I felt a call. I felt like someone grabbed me early and say that I was protected, even though that I wasn't believing and I wasn't practicing it. I knew there was something bigger. I just had to lean into it. So it's more about love, and I feel like that the Holy Spirit and the way that all wraps around it, I feel like that Jesus as its head figure just tells me that love is possible, and then there's forgiveness in that.
Yeah.
And then there's forgiveness in the things that I didn't think that I was going to be lovable anymore. And it was told to me through his story that that's not correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. I totally support that. Offline, we talk a lot, and we text a lot and check in with each other. We have something in common that we talk about, and without getting into too much detail, and I want to know how you handle it, and is that we're sober now. We're doing great things, and we are appearing to be normal and noble citizens, but there are family members that we have lost contact with that we want to talk to and be a part of their life. How do you handle that today? That missing those family members? Because you and I have that in common.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah,
it's been hard for it'll be 13 years in April.
Yeah,
13 years.
About the same time. Yeah, that I haven't seen her talk. To my loved ones.
So they had, I've gone through several different stages of that. So early in, it was anger. I still kind of wanted to fight. Rest His Soul, Randy was my sponsor.
Absolutely.
And he would tell me that I needed to put that axe down or I was never going to really get sober. I needed to stop fighting all that stuff. I mean, one way or another, do everything that you can, but you've got to be at peace with it. And he's like, I remember thinking, I also had to mourn.
Yeah.
Even though my children who are alive, my life is out running around somewhere, and all I want to do is just keep the side of the street clean, so that when they do, if they do ever decide that they want to know what the truth is, or what I never even got a chance to defend even my side of the story. It was like I was trying to get sober, and then they disappeared from my life because it was parental alienation was the way that it went down, and I had no idea that there were so many people in this country even that were having the same thing. I mean, hundreds of thousands of families have to deal with it all the time. And I mean, I'm just like a little podunk kid from Hawkins, Texas, who doesn't know anything about anything. And I dang sure didn't see parental alienation on this bingo card.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, in these days, what I do is I try to I try to hope that I wrote a song called Love Me Yet, man. It's on this album and we just released it. So I use music to be cathartic, to get to. It was really, really hard to record that song.
Yeah.
I felt like that it was like the toughest spiritual battle that I've had to fight so far was recording Love Me Yet.
Yeah.
It was hard, dude. Like I was crying to and from the studio. Like every time I just strike a chord, it's like my throat would clench up.
Yeah.
So, but I fought through it. Now I play it live, you know?
That's a great song. That's what makes the song so great, because it's very passionate and real. And thank you for sharing that, because we have the same story, you know, in that category. So when someone says to you, like they, you know, say to me all the time is, don't worry, they'll be back.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like my first thing is when.
Yeah.
You know, when.
Yeah.
And that's always a tough one.
Oh, it used to make, like there was a period in this time when people would say that, I would get a visceral reaction towards you. I'd be like, don't even, you know, especially one of my family members, if they said, oh, well, you know, hey, you know what?
Right.
You know, it sounded trite, almost. And I wasn't ready for that. But now when people say it, I just kind of, I don't know, Michael, it's been 13 years now, man. I mean, you can, after a while, it's like, it feels like it's
I treat it now today as just, it's a boundary, and I'm just going to respect it.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and I'm just going to do me and let them see what I'm doing. You know, it's the same thing. And then the stories don't add up what they're hearing on their side.
Right.
They're like, wait a minute, what you're saying ain't making sense, because that's not what I'm seeing or hearing.
Right.
You know, and that's good. For someone who is, actually, let's address this real quick. The families, you know, the families who are struggling with trying to help their loved ones, their little Christopher Wright, you know, what's your advice to them, the families who are so uneducated about, it blows them away that, you know, you just got detoxed and you're going to Florida and you re-up at the airport. I mean, for those families, what advice do you give to them?
I mean, the only thing is to find someone who has experienced it and talk to them.
Right. That they can relate.
That's it.
And to get in recovery, cover yourself. It's that simple. It's that simple. Christopher Wright, you know, singer, songwriter, touring musician. Who are some of the people that in the music industry that you look up to, that you just, man, I like this guy, I want what he's got, or she?
You know, I really appreciate what, now that I'm kind of seeing a little bit for more what it's worth, I really appreciate the way that artists are handling, their legacies. I think that one person in particular here in Texas, his name's Aaron Watson. And Aaron Watson, during the whole COVID thing, the word on the street was he basically went and got some money sold some of his catalog so that he could afford to pay his band when everybody couldn't tour. That kind of thing, you know, that character that shows up. So that is really cool. So it doesn't surprise me that over the Super Bowl, I saw Aaron Watson commercial. And I thought, oh my God, it couldn't go to a better dude. That dude, like if the universe, because I know some people in Abilene that know him as well, and I just love that. And Ray Wiley is an amazing human being too, because he helps, well, men like myself. I know you talk to him on a regular basis, but he actively inserts himself into people's lives to lift them up. I feel like there's a light about his spirit. And he also, the way that he's carried himself, you know, he doesn't, he's respectful. His fans, they love him. I've opened for him, so I know what the interaction looks like. I think that's kind of one of those things too. But you know, it's like we went down to Mile Zero Fest, and I watched some of the cats, like, you know, Cody Canada, and the way that he handles himself is just a super cat. And you know, I love that all of these people, they have, when they're reaching back behind trying to help younger people in their thing, whatever it is, that is where, because that's what I would want. That's what I would want to do. I would love the opportunity to say one day that I've put enough skins on the wall to be able to help somebody else. I think that would get a charge out of that.
That's great. Let's wrap up with this. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
favorite football team?
Dude, unfortunately, I was drafted as a Cowboys fan into life. So, like I literally came out into this world with, I think, a star, so it was kind of one of those, I even got, so I've been a Cowboys fan my whole life, but it's hard work being a Cowboys fan right now. Michael, this.
Well, it tests our faith.
You tested our faith.
Test our faith.
Yes. But I'm also, I went to Texas Tech. So on my college squad, it has to be my Red Raiders. And that's not any easier right now. So,
You got Patrick Mahomes to follow.
hey, right on, like that's good. That's a win.
There you go. If you could have dinner for 1 hour, just you alone with one other person, dead or alive, who would that be?
Man, Prince.
Prince.
Yeah. Powder, definitely Chris. Oh gosh, that guy's like the most insane artist I think that I've ever seen. Like that guy can do everything. And he just seemed like he was really plugged in. I don't know that he's dead.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say.
Prince. So there you have it, Christopher Wright. Prince is still alive.
Hey, and if he is,
Yeah.
I want to talk to him.
Yeah, we'll tag him on this. We'll tag him on this and all that.
Yeah.
Christopher Wright, love you, brother.
Too, man.
Huge fan of you, huge supporter of you. And for all of us here at M2 The Rock at M2 Studios, make sure you subscribe, like, share this out to get the message out. And also click on the links below to follow Christopher Wright and download all of his music. And I got 3 words for you. It's got 8 letters and it's got one meaning, and that is, I love you. Make it a great day.